If anybody that works at Disney XD is watching this, I just want to tell you that there better be a Darkwing Duck reboot by the end of 2022. Otherwise, all of this cock teasing was for nothing. Every time that Darkwing Duck shows up on the new DuckTales, it's just one endless teaser, an ongoing backdoor pilot to this non-existent Darkwing Duck reboot, and there either needs to be a reboot or this constant teasing needs to stop. Do we all agree? Okay. Because when Darkwing Duck first appears on DuckTales in the buddy system, it's just a quick little gag at the beginning of the episode that this is just an old TV show that Launchpad watches. It was a fun little nod to Launchpad being a fan of Darkwing Duck. It was a nice little cameo from Jim Cummings playing Darkwing Duck again, and a few of the actors from the original show as well, namely Michael Bell, who got to play Crackerjack again during that opening sequence. And that was fine, and I was, as the biggest Darkwing Duck fan of all time, which is me, don't challenge me, I was happy with that. I was okay with that. I am satisfied with the original 91 episodes. I'm good. Any nods, any little Easter eggs, any references to Darkwing Duck are always appreciated on any Disney show. But then they did The Duck Knight Returns, which was the first full Darkwing Duck homage episode that they've done on DuckTales 2017. And by the end of that episode, the episode's great, by the way, but by the end of that episode, I was left wanting more. It's like, oh god, I hope they do another one. And then I find out that not only are they doing another Darkwing Duck homage episode, but it's gonna be a full hour special. 44 minutes of nothing but Darkwing Duck on DuckTales. So please, just make the reboot already. We can't take it anymore. Or just delete Darkwing from DuckTales continuity, alright? Just delete him from the new show, because I can't take this anymore. I can't take this constant teasing. Alright, with that out of the way, this episode, Let's Get Dangerous, was an episode that people were asking me to talk about it back when it was a rumor. Before confirmation that the episode existed, before a teaser trailer, before it aired, people were already asking me what I thought about it, even though there was nothing to talk about. So the anticipation for me has been ongoing for about, I want to say, 9 months to a year. That this episode was coming and that everybody was like waiting for me, just at the edge of their seat, waiting for me to tell everybody what I thought of it. And now the time has come, the episode has aired, I have seen it, and what do I think about it? I liked it. I liked it very much. It was a very good episode. As I've stated during my very elaborate opening monologue, it was most definitely and shamelessly a backdoor pilot to a possible Darkwing Duck show. So if Disney XD or any of the other Disney centric channels doesn't greenlight a Darkwing Duck reboot show, I don't know what they're thinking. Because this is definitely proof of concept. This is definitely proof that a new version, a modernized version of Darkwing Duck most definitely work. In my humble opinion, and I'm not just saying this as a Darkwing Duck fan, I've asked other people their opinion as well, and they agree. Darkwing Duck is one of the few shows from the Disney Afternoon that has aged really well, that is still really, really good. A lot of the shows from the original Disney Afternoon seriously need a facelift, seriously need a full-on makeover, full-on reboot. Darkwing Duck, the original show, is still great. It still works. It still plays. Ironically, one of the shows that is not that as good as it used to be, as it was when it first aired, was the original DuckTales. The adventures of a rich asshole getting richer it's not as appealing as it used to be. So I can understand why they changed it up more for the current version, where it resembles more Carl Banks' original DuckTales Uncle Scrooge comic books, where he's more of an adventurer who only cares about riches as long as they fund his adventures. And he's also a parody of capitalism. But he's not as insanely greedy as he was in the original DuckTales cartoon. So, very much like The Duck Knight Returns, Let's Get Dangerous is a love letter to Darkwing Duck fans. It's loaded with Easter eggs and references and lots of little nods and winks to a lot of things that they know hardcore fans like myself will understand and get. The thing that I appreciated the most, that pretty much ran throughout the whole episode, was all the references and nods towards the original Darkwing Duck pilot, Darkly Dawns the Duck. From Taurus Bulba being the villain, to the Ramrod being the evil MacGuffin that he's going to use to take over the world. Another reference that choked me up was when Darkwing Duck and Gosalyn fall asleep on the furniture, and they play just a hint of Little Girl Blue, which is the lullaby that Darkwing Duck sings to Gosalyn in the pilot episode. Let's talk about the cast of this episode. One of the things that people were wondering about when The Duck Knight Returns aired was how I felt about somebody else playing Darkwing Duck other than Jim Cummings. And people thought that I was going to be mad, that I was going to hate it, that I perceived the role of Darkwing Duck as being sacred and that only Jim Cummings could play it. That's not true. While I feel that Jim Cummings is the true Darkwing Duck since he co-created the character along with Tad Stones, who was the showrunner, Jeannie McSwain, who was the voice director, and him being the actor that pretty much had to figure out who this character was. While I agree that nobody will ever be able to take that away from him, how he is Darkwing Prime, he is the definitive one, I don't feel that the role is sacred, and I don't feel that it's out of the question for somebody else to step into the role. Darkwing Duck, and I know this is silly to some people, but Darkwing Duck is my favorite superhero. But unlike other popular superheroes like Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, he doesn't have much of a legacy. There hasn't been other versions of Darkwing Duck. There haven't been other actors to step into the role. You can't build a legacy without passing the torch. For that to happen, another actor had to come in and give the character his own spin. So I'm 100% okay with somebody else stepping in as the new Darkwing. It's not like Jim Cummings is gone. He's still part of the franchise as Negaduck. That's awesome. The creators have promised us that we were definitely going to see Negaduck somewhere down the line, and Jim Cummings is coming back, so that's wonderful. But for now, I just want to give my seal of approval to the new Darkwing Duck, Chris Diamantopoulos, best known for playing Mo in that Three Stooges movie that absolutely nobody ever complained about. But he's also a tremendous voice actor. He did a spectacular job as Mickey, so that is the biggest Disney character, so why not take on my favorite Disney character? And as far as I'm concerned, he's great. Is he a carbon copy of Jim Cummings? No, and that's okay. He's doing it his own way. The creators don't even write him exactly like the original Darkwing. Chris's version is not as much of a glory hog as Jim's version, which I'm 100% okay with. Even though that was one of the main elements of Darkwing Duck, I like the idea of him being a fanboy. I find it, as a fanboy myself, I find it more relatable. I think that's cool. I like that he's a fanboy of superheroes and Darkwing Duck specifically. He's still accident prone. He's still, his insecurities and whatnot get in the way. I will definitely miss Darkwing's main weakness being his ego. To me, one of the most awesome things that they would do in the original show was that the villain was never Negaduck or Megabolt or, Bushroot. It was never the actual character. The main villain of each episode was Darkwing Duck's ego, and he would trip over his ego over and over and over again until the very end when he realized, oh no, if I don't put my ego aside, I won't be able to save Gosalyn, I won't be able to help Launchpad, I won't be able to save the day. And the moment he puts his ego aside, things work out. And I always thought that was a good message, but that was 91 episodes of that. If they really are going to make a new Darkwing Duck show, they got to find something new. So he's great. I initially, when Beck Bennett first started playing Launchpad about 2-3 years ago, I was not crazy about it, but he is winning me over slowly. One of the things that I appreciate that very much like Darkwing is that he is a super fan. And I guess the reason why I resented Launchpad initially is that I saw a lot of myself in him. No, I'm not nowhere close to being as dumb as he is. I don't think any human being can be. But his fandom, his nerdiness gets in the way. And I think as super fans, I think as fanboys and fangirls, we completely understand what that's like. So I like that. I like that in the original show, in the pilot episode, Launchpad says he's Darkwing's fan, and that's the last time it's ever mentioned or referenced. Here it's ongoing, so I like that. I like how it's ongoing and he cannot stop being a Darkwing Duck fanboy, even though he's living it, even though he really is the sidekick, he really is fighting crime, he really is fighting supervillains, but he can't stop referencing the episodes and singing the theme song. It was great.
Daring Duck of Mystery, champion of right.
Gosalyn was a character that I was so worried about. She was originally played by one of the most legendary voice actors of all time, Christine Cavanaugh, who retired really young and then passed away. So then I found out that in this version, Gosalyn was going to be Latina. And then I found out that she was going to be played by Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, best known as Rosa Diaz. And I was just blown away. I couldn't believe that they casted somebody that I'm such a huge fan of, let alone somebody that's, Hispanic like myself. So, wow, it was such an honor, and after I heard that, all the tension, all the trepidation that I felt towards the casting of this character went away. And sure enough, I sat down, watched the episode, and she lived up to expectations. She really gets this character. And I think that's one of the things that makes me at ease and makes me feel like a Darkwing Duck reboot would work. Because even though they changed a few things, the one thing that they kept the same and the one thing that most definitely works, beyond the shadow of a doubt, is the dynamic between Darkwing, Launchpad, and Gosalyn. It's still the same. He is the goofy, accident-prone hero, his dumb sidekick, and the spirited, brave, badass girl. The change that they made was that in the original show, Darkwing was always reluctant to let Gosalyn be involved in his adventures. Here, in the final scene, he flat out asked her to be his partner, to be his Robin, his ward, which is wonderful. Taurus Bulba, played by James Monroe Englehart. Originally, Bulba was played by the legendary Tim Curry. Those are huge shoes to fill. James is more famous as a Broadway actor, as a musical theater performer. He is famous. He's most famous for playing both the genie for the theatrical, for the stage version of Aladdin, as well as Oogie Boogie for the stage version of A Nightmare Before Christmas. So he's got serious Disney cred, and now he's finally played a character in one of the cartoons. So good on him, and he did a really good job. This character was nothing like the Tim Curry version. Tim Curry version was more of a James Bond villain. The original show had a strong James Bond influence. If you want to know why, I already did a video on that explaining everything and why that is. You can go check that out. Here he was more like the Kingpin from Daredevil, and I thought that was a good change. One thing that people keep pointing out to me is all the endless amount of Easter eggs. There's more Easter eggs than there's in this episode. So people kept asking me which ones are your favorite. There's too many to number. There's too many to name, excuse me. So I'll name 3 and one honorable mention. The honorable mention was the very quick cameo of Bonkers, Bonkers the Bobcat, from the Disney Afternoon cartoon. The reason it's an honorable mention is because he didn't speak, and if he spoke, he would have been voiced by Jim Cummings, who also voiced Bonkers back in the day. Which is one of my few itty-bitty little nitpicks about this episode, that they didn't give Jim Cummings a cameo, but he's already cameoed in the show before. And Matt Youngberg, the showrunner of DuckTales 2017, has assured us that Jim is coming back as Negaduck, and it's gonna be worth the wait. So I'll hold him to that promise. So what were my top 3 favorite Easter eggs in this episode? Number 1, Gosalyn using a crossbow. This is a reference to her superhero alter ego from the original show, the Quiverwing Quack. Number 2, Gosalyn's grandfather was finally given a first name, and they named him Thaddeus. And I'm really sure that this is a reference to Darkwing's creator, Tad Stones. And number 3, Gosalyn and Launchpad disguising themselves as C-list villains to infiltrate Taurus Bulba's lair. More specifically, Jambalaya Jake and the Bugmaster. That was great. So, before I close this out, the million-dollar question: what is the number 1 thing I would want to see if they did make this Darkwing Duck reboot? Tad Stones has been asked this question a lot, and for him, the thing that appealed to him, that drew him to be the showrunner of Darkwing Duck. Initially, he didn't want to be a part of the show. It was a spy show, and he didn't want to be a part of it. It didn't appeal to him. But the thing that really got him interested was the idea of this cool, mysterious superhero being a dad and being completely undermined and having his cool taken away from him by this very rambunctious, spirited daughter. He says that for Darkwing Duck to work, it has to have the right combination of heroics and fantasy and just mundane, everyday family life. Like The Incredibles. And the thing that he says he would want to see in a reboot or in a continuation of Darkwing Duck, and I agree, is having Darkwing Duck be married. So I would want to see him just go ahead and get married to Morgana and have him be a married man with a daughter. So those are my thoughts on Let's Get Dangerous, the very obvious backdoor pilot for a possible new Darkwing Duck show. I hope it happens. I know that you guys want me to do these videos more often. Unfortunately, just things keep getting in the way. I'm both very busy, and just the world has been crazy. But just because the world has been crazy doesn't mean that we can't get dangerous.